everybody. Happy Sunday. So hopefully everybody's finding me okay. So did everybody have a nice couple of weeks off? It seems kind of weird to have a couple of weeks off, but I still uploaded the videos for the little pillows for you. So I felt like I was still having a class even though we didn't have a class. Just a second. I'm having a little trouble seeing the... Oh, there we go. I see Deb. I see Cindy. Just a second. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the little banner thing here. Just a second. Turn that off. Hi, everybody. Oh, thank you, Marianne. Yeah, I've been busy. You know, we've been busy working on things. So cleaning and different things. So I've been busy the whole time, but it was nice to have a couple weeks off. And I got a few extra little things done. So, all right. Oh, we got a bunch of people here. My goodness. So how is everybody? So I've been working on the December pillows. So I think I put these up on the group. So here's the little rectangle Christmas pillow, or the December pillow. And isn't that cute? It's got you put a little stick in it for the tree trunk. And then you tie the ribbons on to hold the little stick on. It's so cute. So this is one of the ones that we'll do. We'll do this the first Sunday in December. This one. And then I'm working on this one. I finished this one up. This is the little square one that looks like a present. And this one, yeah, isn't that plaid fabric? That's Kimberbell fabric. That was from We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So I had leftover fabric from We Wish You a Merry Christmas for it. And then this one is the little square pillow. And this one actually, I'm going to do also some, I'm going to do some of this one pre-recorded, because we're going to sew the tag in the live class. And then the rest of the little pillow top, I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is actually little pieced hourglass blocks. So, and I know some of you piece and some of you don't. I thought, well, I'll just record the piecing part, you know, the piecing of the little pillow and the pillow construction. So then we'll do the tag in the class, because that takes a little while to make. And that's embroidery. So this one will be partially, so this one's going to be on the 12th. And then I'll put up that evening, I'll put up the pre-recorded piecing part of this pillow, because this one's mostly sewn actually, and this is the only thing that was embroidered. So I've been busy. I've been working on these too. I'll stick them back up on the shelf so I can get them out of the way. I don't have a lot of space here to put things. So how is everybody this evening? Oh, I've got all kinds of people. Hi, Kathy. And everybody's hearing me okay? Awesome. So tonight we're going to work on May Your Days Be Merry and Bright. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about just preparing for the quilt. We're going to talk a little bit about the instructions and how to access the videos. You can purchase May Your Days Be Merry and Bright on my website. So it's sew-along-with-jan.square.site. So you can go purchase it there. And there's a link on the group. So if you can't remember that, you can go click on the link from the group and it'll take you there. But this has been really fun. This was a very fun project for me to do. And I did the instructions a little differently than I normally do, because I did them partially videoed. So I did written instructions plus video instructions. So anyway, tonight's video is not going to be, you know, the instruction tonight is going to be not as in detail as the actual videos that I made for the quilt. Okay. I'm sewing with you on Mary Bright. Are you working on I saw your pillow shams, Denise. They're really cute. And you're quilting them. I'm so excited you're doing some of the quilting yourself. So that's really cool. Okay. So I'm going to switch over my camera and let's talk a little bit about preparing for the quilt. You don't need a ton of fabric for this, and it's not a real big quilt. I think it's about like 38 by 42 or something like that. It's not real big. So let me go ahead and switch my camera over. Give me a second here. I have to remember how to do it. There we go. Camera. Let's do the webcam. And then we'll get my camera or my microphone. Okay, is everybody still hearing me? How is my dad? My dad is doing very well. He went into the living room to watch TV while I teach. He was out here napping, but he decided to go and go sit in the living room and watch a little TV. So, okay. So is everybody still hearing me all right? I switched my microphone and my camera. Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the instructions. So what you get with the May Your Days Be Merry and Bright set, you get the designs, of course, but then you get about 12 or 15 pages, so 12 pages of written instructions, I think, 10 pages of written instructions. And then you also got videos. So there was 6 videos. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the videos. So when I sent you the designs by email, the link is for Dropbox where all the designs are and the instructions. And then, hi Gail. And then the video links take you to the playlist on YouTube where all the 6 videos are. Okay, so that's in there. But if you lose that link, like if you lose that email, you can also, if you can see in the instructions here, it says accessing the videos, and I give you the actual link that you can copy and paste into your browser that will take you to the video, the playlist on YouTube with all the videos in it. Okay, so that's part of it. The other way you can access all the videos is when you get into the instructions. Let me hold this up so you can see it. Like the first part is embroidering the redwood block. So this is the first section, and there's going to be a video for that. And when you see, if you open up this PDF file on your computer and see where it's blue and it says embroidering the redwood blocks, if you click on that, it will actually open up your browser and take you right to YouTube where that one video is. Okay, so these links will take you to the exact video you want. And all you have to do is open it up on your computer and just click on this link. So just open up the PDF on your computer and click this link. So I have a couple different ways. So you can do it this way with the PDF file on your computer, or the link that came in your email, or you can copy and paste. This is the link right here that you can copy and paste and just put it in your browser and hit enter, and then it'll take you right to the folder where all 6 of them are. Okay, so I wanted to make it easy for you to access the videos, and that way it was easier for me too, because I didn't have to store those big videos on Dropbox because I don't have a lot of Dropbox space. Okay, because the videos take up a lot of space. Okay, so let's talk about preparing a little bit for the quilt, and I'll show you what I did for mine. Okay, so here's the instructions, and of course you can read this part, the fabric requirements. I 3/4 of a yard redwood block background fabric. So that's what my white is here. Okay, this is the white, and it has little snowflakes on it. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's white on tone, and it has little snowflakes on it. So I had 3/4 of a yard of that. You need 6 fat quarters or 6/4 yard cuts for the piece blocks. Give me just a second. I'm going to move my hoops here so I can get to my blocks. Okay. And, a 1/3 of a yard for the inner borders and the corner blocks, 1/2 a yard. So you can read all of these. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the cutting. Okay. Tried to make this very simple. It's all done in blocks. It's all done in squares, 3.5 and 6.5 inch squares. So I took my red work block background, which is my white with the little snowflakes on it. I took that and I needed 13 6.5 inch squares. Then what I did is I cut also 13 squares of the shape flex, Pellon shape flex, and adhered it to the back. So that's what I have here is my background fabric for my redwood blocks with the little snowflakes, and then it's got a piece of the shape flex, Pellon SF 101 on the back. Okay,
So that is what is on my blocks. Okay, so these are the two we're going to do tonight. I've already pre-sewn out my other blocks. So here's my other 11 blocks. And then we're going to sew these out in the class tonight. Okay, so that's the first thing. So then you need to have 13 3.5-inch squares from each of the 6 fat quarters or quarter yard cuts. And what I did is I labeled those fabrics A through F. Okay, so what I did then is I cut my squares. Now, I personally cut my squares out with my Sizzix machine because I'm a terrible cutter and I like my squares to be square. So I actually cut these out with my Sizzix machine. So here are and I labeled them the way I wanted them. Okay, so here's my bag with my A fabric, my B fabric. Okay, so I have these all labeled A, B, and I have 13 squares in each one of these. Now you will have a few squares left over, but I wanted you to be able to have, it made cutting a little easier to do just 13 of each one, and you will have a few leftover squares. I'll just tell you, okay? So A, B, here's my C, okay? So I just bagged them the way I wanted them. Here's D, okay? And you don't have to do them you can do them anyway. Can you cut them with your scan and cut? Yes, you could. Yes, you could, but you would need to use Terrial Magic on them because there is no, you would not want to put shape or heat and bond on the back of these. So I don't normally cut squares and strips and stuff like that with my scan and cut because I can only cut one layer at a time. I find it takes me longer than it does to use my cutting machine because I can just lay these on and I can do all of these squares at the same time. So literally I have my whole 13 squares all cut at the same time. Okay, with my Sizzix machine and a die. Okay, so here's my letter E. I have this little plaid for letter E. Okay, and letter F. Okay, so you need 13 squares of each one. Like I said, you will have a few left over, but that way it's easier to cut and then you can put them in any order you want and you don't have to try to figure out. There's the the E and the F, you're going to have a few left over. Okay, so but it's easier than trying to figure out how many you need. So I was just easier to have everybody cut the same amount and you will have a few left over. Okay, so here's my bags of 3.5-inch squares. So I try to make this a very simple pattern because I know some of you really don't quilt much and you probably don't piece much. So I wanted it to be a simple pattern. Okay, so here's my squares that were 3.5 inches. So that's the 13 3.5 inches squares out of the 6 fat quarters or the 6 quarter yard cuts. And then I needed 4 1.5-inch widths of fabric strips for the inner border. So these are my inner borders. These are 1.5 inch, okay, by the width of the fabric. Okay, so I have them in a bag ready to go. So this is my inner borders. And you can, obviously, I repeated fabric. When Judy did her blue quilt, and I'll try to get a picture of that for next week. I forgot to take a picture of it. And then Lynn, if you could send me a picture of your black quilt, I'd love that. Then I can show that next week too. I think Lynn's on here somewhere. But these are then, you can repeat the colors. I repeated colors with my borders instead of having all new, but like Judy used all different fabrics. I don't think there's hardly any repeats. Hers is all different fabrics. The borders were different. The inner and outer borders were different. The blocks were different. So she didn't repeat for fabrics, but I did. So I have my green here that I had for block. I think that was block D, my green. And then you need some corner blocks as well, 3.5-inch quarter blocks. And I also made those in letter D. That's why it looks like I have a few more blocks in this bag, because I have my 4 corner blocks also in this green. Okay. And then let's see, I need 4 3.5-inch by width of fabric strips for the outer border. So again, I repeated a color and I made my outer border the red with the little snowflakes, and that was I think it was my F fabric, my letter F fabric. So I did repeat that as well. Okay, but you don't have to. You can use all different fabrics if you want. And then I also made my binding. My binding is going to be 5 2¼ inch widths of fabric. And I also use the same, I use matching fabric to my border for my binding. Again, you don't have to. Judy used a totally different fabric. So whatever you like with your fabrics, okay? So that's this. There's no right or wrong to this. I made the patterns so that you could easily pick fabrics. You could do all different fabrics. You could do, and that's why I split it up like this when I gave you the amounts, so that you could use all different fabrics for every piece if you wanted to. Okay. And the cutting is very simple. It's all squares and some strips. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we need to do. All right. So the big thing for tonight with the embroidery is super simple and fun. And these little blocks go very quickly. There's a couple of them that take a little longer because they have some words, like the main block that I put in the center, the one that says, "May your days be merry and bright." That one does take a little bit longer to stitch out. So that one, most of them take about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Okay. So we're going to make a couple tonight in the hoop. And the reason I wanted to do 2 is because there are 2 blocks in the red work that have 4 colors. Most of them only have 3. So let's go on to the embroidering the red work blocks. And I also have a video for this, of course. What you need for this is the 13 6½ inch squares, and those are the ones we're going to do the red work on. And you need to have your shape flex on the back. Okay, so I have my shape flex ironed onto the back of those. And you need tearaway stabilizer for your hoop, and you're just going to hoop the tearaway in the hoop. Okay, nothing, you're not going to hoop the fabric, just the tearaway. So I have here the embroidery instructions, and to watch the video. And again, if you open this up on your computer and click this little link right here, it'll take you right to the video. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and hoop the stabilizer in a 6x10. So I made this quilt. The whole thing can be done in a 6x10 hoop. Part of it is actually done in a 5x7. But I wanted it all to fit within a 6x10. We're going to do a little bit of the quilting with a 5x7 and actually a 4x4, but most of it is going to be a 6x10 hoop. And the reason it fits in a 6x10 is because I wanted to do like a tack down stitch that you did not have to remove. So it's like a basting stitch that holds everything in the hoop for you. I didn't want you to have to remove those because I hate removing basting stitches. So these are far enough out in the seam allowance so you do not need to remove them. Okay. So that's why I had to go to a 6x10 hoop, because it needs to be a little wider. Okay. So what we're going to do is I've got my tearaway. I just got a plain old tearaway in the hoop here, hooped in my 6x10 hoop. And for those of you, I know you're going to ask, it does not fit in the 6x6 square hoop. It's too wide. I had to go to the 6x10 because this is actually 6¼ by 10¼ So I needed that extra 1/4 inch width. So it will not fit in that 6x6 hoop. You do have to use a 6x10. Okay. Or you can use a bigger one if you have like an 8x12. That's fine. This one is just the right size. So, okay. So what I have here is, now red work can be any color. It can be any color. It doesn't have to be red. It can be black. It can be blue. Like Lynn made hers in black, so it's like black work, and Judy made hers in blue, and the blue work is beautiful. So I'm going to get a picture of Judy's quilt so you can see it. I have in my case, I'm going to use kind of a dark, kind of a wine burgundy red, because my fabric, as you can see, is pretty dark. So I have kind of a dark burgundy wine red that I'm going to use for my red work. And I'm going to use my regular white bobbin thread in the bobbin. Okay. So that's what I've got in my machine. I'm going to put my hoop in. And I'm going to do the whole thing in the same color with the exception of the second one that we're going to do. We're going to use two of the designs. Let's see, this Santa Claus and the reindeer have little eyeball, what do I say, like accents, and they need to be white. So that's the only ones that need to have a little bit extra, one extra color on them. Okay. So we're going to do one of each of those tonight. We're going to do the Santa and we're going to do the candy canes. So my candy canes, and I'll show you my hoop. I've got my candy canes up here already, but let me just show you the designs. So I've got my designs on my stick here, and there's going to be several folders that you get. And one of the folders says interior block and border quilting. So that's the quilting. Okay. One says Redwood blocks. That's what we're going to do tonight. One says Redwood quilting. So that's the quilting for the Redwood blocks. So there's going to be several folders in the download. Okay. So we're going to work with Redwood blocks tonight. And then I have each one in a separate folder by what it is. Okay, so like this one's the candy canes. Here's the gingerbread boy. Okay, so we're going to do candy canes. That's the one I need to do. Candy canes and Santa. So let's do the candy canes first. I'm going to choose my PES file and hit set. Now, if you look up here, the reason I needed to have my 6 by 10 hoop, which is actually 6 1/4 by 10 1/4, it is 6 1/4 inches wide. And that's why it's 6.5 inches long, but that's fine because I've got plenty of room lengthwise. It was just the width. And so it will not fit in that little 6 by 6 hoop because that one is not even quite 6 by 6. Okay. So let's do another little preparatory thing here. We got the hoop in here. My tearaway stabilizer is in here. I'm just using, this is the medium tearaway from Floriani, or this might be the light tearaway from Dime, actually. So either one will work, okay? And the next thing it says on here to do is I'm going to take my little block that I've cut, and I've got my shape flex on the back of it. I'm going to just take this and I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm just going to finger press the little center mark up here and at the bottom. So I'm just going to fold it in half and just finger press the center in it. So you can you see the little finger presses right here? I'm going to do that on every block, okay? Because we need to know where to place the block in the hoop because I need it to be centered in order for the quilting to work, okay? So we're going to have a placement line. All right, so I've got that done for the first block. The next step is going to be, I hooped the stabilizer already, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch my placement lines. So step number 1 in the machine on all of the blocks will be the placement lines. I got to find my glue stick. And if you see what it's doing, it makes a placement line, and then there's like a little tick mark here in the center. And it's going to go down and do one on the bottom as well. And then you want to get, now this is my sew line glue stick. This works better because it's smaller. You can use a regular Dritz glue stick. That would work too. The regular bigger one. But this is nice because it's got a smaller point on it. So what I want to do at this point is I'm going to pull this out a little bit, and I'm going to run my glue stick right along the inside of the top placement line and on inside the bottom placement line, like that, just to give me a little place to glue that it will attach. Okay. Then I'm going to take my block where I marked those little finger presses, and I'm going to lay that little center spot right on the little tick mark. Okay, and I'm going to press that down to my hoop. And if you have accurately cut your blocks, which I am not the best cutter in the world, I will admit, you should completely cover those two lines. Okay, so the block should just go right on top of the lines. Okay, and I've got it all centered on there. It's glued down, so it's not going to move. Then step number 2 is going to be the, whoops, there we go, the basting stitch or the tack down line. That's going to tack this down to the stabilizer so it won't move. And you can see that it's staying out towards the outside of the block. And that way I don't have to remove that. I can just leave it in. And when I do my seam allowance or my 1/4 inch seam when I sew these together, I will not need to remove those. Okay. And that was my goal, is to keep these out far enough so we don't have to take them out, because I hate taking out basting lines. Okay, got this big long string up here. I'm going to go ahead and trim out. Okay. And then step number 3 for most of the blocks is just going to be the redwork design. It pretty much is continuous stitching, and it just runs, and it's kind of a triple stitch. And I digitized these very much like the designs that we taught. You know, we had a redwork class on sessions on software, and this is how I digitized these. And these really go quite quickly. This one was 6 minutes. Okay, so are there questions? Is this making sense to everybody? So far, does everybody understand what you need to do for the cutting? And I tried to make the pattern very simple, because I'm not really a quilter. I've become a quilter kind of, but I like easy patterns because I knew I'd have to do this several times, and I wanted it to be simple. This is my 4th quilt. So does everybody understand the cutting? Did it make sense to everybody? There's some other things that we'll talk about in the next couple of weeks, about like printing and different things like that. So when we get to the point that we need to know about printing templates, I will explain that more fully. Okay, and then the other thing you may want to, if you notice on the top of this, while this is stitching, this last thing that on the instructions says dime, print and stick target paper or Floriani template tearaway. And what that is, it's a paper, and you can just use regular paper, but I really, really love that stuff because it's template and it's kind of translucent. So when you go to lay that down on your block, you can see the block underneath it or through it. So you might want to get some of that. I've got it in the store. I'm not positive if it's in the Davenport store, but I know I have some in the Iowa City store. Okay, so make sure hopefully I'm not being too fuzzy here. Sorry guys, looks like Facebook's a little fuzzy tonight for some reason. Peggy, oh, you wanted to put these on napkins? No, you would still use a tearaway. I would use a tearaway. And then just pull it out. So, does it look fuzzy on Facebook? It doesn't look fuzzy on my screen, but it looks fuzzy on Facebook. Does it look okay, everybody? That looks better. Let's see if it clears up on Facebook too. There we go. Yeah, it was just a little fuzzy. Sorry, guys. This table shakes a little bit, so I have to hang on to my camera. Is it better now? It should be better now. It looks better to me now. So this says, as you can see, it pretty much sews in one continuous line. Yeah, see, I think it's because of my camera shakes a little bit on this table. So we're going to fix that tomorrow, I think. Yeah, I think it's better. It looks much better now. It wasn't terrible, but you could still see it. And sometimes when I hold the papers up in front of it real close, then it takes a second for it to focus. So, but I tried to keep these as few jump clips as possible, so you don't have to do a lot of clipping and stuff. It pretty much runs steady. And so I sewed these out a lot of times before I let people buy them to make sure they sewed okay. So I've done a lot of test sewing. And poor Judy made her entire quilt without having any instructions. So I was trying to tell her what to do as she was going. So yeah, so it's just about done. I've got my machine turned down a little bit too, because otherwise it jiggles. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. What is a jump stitch? A jump stitch is like a line from where it jumps from one area to another area, and then there's a line of thread in there that you got to take your scissors and clip it. And I really hate jump stitches, so I try to digitize to not have too many to clip. And not all machines have a jump clipper. So like my machine has one that clips them for me, but not everybody's does. And if you're very close together, you still might have a jump clip. So like some of these still have a little jump in it every now and then, but if it's very close. So I think we're about done. Yep, I think we're done. So wasn't that easy? That is a block. All of the blocks are done the same way. Isn't that easy? So here's my candy canes. So the candy canes are done. And now we'll go on and we'll do the, let's do the Santa Claus. So you can see what one with the 4. So what I'm going to do, let's take this out so you can see. I'll take this out. Lay my finger. So I just leave part of the stabilizer in. So let me just show you what I do with the stabilizer. I'm going to go ahead. Besides what wine, red, and white. Oh, Peggy, I just used for the red work blocks. I just used all red. So I used red for my blocks. And then I used silver and gold metallic to quilt it. So you can use any color you want to quilt, but I quilted with silver and gold metallic. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take the stabilizer out of here around the edges first. So we'll just tear the stabilizer off. Okay, and we may need to clip a little bit where those little ticks were. What was your bobbin color? My bobbin color, I've just got white bobbin, regular white bobbin thread in, Mitzi. Okay, so I'm just doing, I may have to clip these little ticks right here just because they kind of stick. Okay, can the blocks be done on a 5x7? No, they cannot. Because they are 6.5, they're 6 1/4 inches wide. Okay, so then what I want to do is I'm just kind of cleaning these up on the edges, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that, the stitching that we did along the edge, I'm going to leave that, okay, and I am going to just pull out the stabilizer around the red work. I'm going to leave it inside the red work because it'll just keep it more steady in the quilt, and I'm not going to quilt over that anyway. Okay, so we're just going to go along here, and I'm just going to take as much of the stabilizer off as I can. I'm going to leave it inside the block here. So we're going to do this. And I'm just going to leave the rest of it in. So that way I'm just going to pull all that stabilizer off the back around the design. And then I just left the rest of it in. Okay, like that. And then when I go to quilt this, I'm not going to be quilting over this part. I'm going to quilt around it. So that extra little stabilizer inside there will just keep everything nice and firm and flat looking. Okay. All right. So let's do another block. Let's do the Santa Claus. This one has the white in it. do the same thing. Get these all out of the way. And get my hoop here. I figured this would be a fun, fast, quick class tonight. Oops, looks like I unthreaded my machine now. Let's try threading it again here. It's telling me it didn't like it that I was trying to thread before it. There we go. Okay, so got my machine threaded. I'm going to go back then. I'm going to get my Santa Claus because that's the other one I needed. Get Santa. Santa and the reindeer are the two that have the little eye glints in them. And Redwood blocks. And I'm going to go to the Santa folder and set my Santa. And Santa takes just a little bit longer because it is a little bit more detailed. All right, so we're going to start out the same way. We're going to start out with the placement lines so we know where to put our fabric. It's going to do those same little ticks. And with any luck at all, hopefully you cut better than I do. And you will be able to keep your blocks nice and square. My blocks aren't always real square. I think I did pretty well with these. I did cut these without my Sizzix machine, and I know that's why I have trouble with these 6.5-inch blocks. I didn't happen to have my big enough cutter with me, so I had to cut them with a small one, and I just had to cut these with a rotary cutter. Okay, so now we got, here's our last block with my shape flex again on the back. I'm going to fold this in half, and we're going to find the center at the top and the bottom. Just finger press it in. Like that. Finger press that in. Okay. There's that. And then I'm going to take my little sew line. And these are up on the website too. So if you don't have a sew line glue stick, these are so nice because they're thinner. And they work really great for these little, you need a little thinner, more, precise line of glue. So I'm just going to put the glue across the top and the bottom. Just inside, I put it inside the mark. And then I'm going to put this up to the line, and I've got the little mark in the center on the tick mark. And then make sure they're all lined up at the bottom here. And I'm just going to, whoops, got crooked, a little bit crooked here. There we go. Like that. This one must have been a little, sorry guys, this one must have been a little bit crooked, my block. So, okay. All right, so then I've got my block in there, and now I'm going to do step number 2, which is going to be, can you use the 8x8 hoop? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Marsha. Yeah, if you don't want to use, if you don't have a 6x10, or if you don't want to use the bigger one, yes, the 8x8 or the 8x8 will work, yes. What does my cutting machine look like? I have a Sizzix. I have a Sizzix machine, Sizzix cutting machine. I don't have it with me, so I can't show it to you. I'm sorry. It's at home. It's in Iowa City. So I really like it. It's my Big Shot. It's a Sizzix Big Shot is the one I have. It's sort of like an AccuQuilt. I just happen to have the Sizzix brand instead. But I really like it for doing blocks and squares and triangles and stuff like that because I'm not a very good cutter, and I cut most of my strips, especially like binding and those 1.5-inch strips. I cut all of that with my cutter, and because I have like strip dies and stuff like that. That's what I mostly cut. So never heard of it. Sizzix does mostly paper crafting, but they have also quilting dies as well. AccuQuilt is more popular, I think, with the quilters. So I had an AccuQuilt at one time, but I like the Sizzix dies a little bit better. So I have those now. All right, so there is our square. We have done the step number 2 is the basting line or the tack down line. It's going to hold it to my stabilizer, and it's outside of my seam allowance. Yay, so we don't have to take it out. And then step number 3 in this one is going to be Santa. So we're going to sew out Santa here. I'll hold the camera so it doesn't bounce around. Now would be another good time for questions. Anybody else have any other questions? So you can cut, of course, with the rotary cutter. You can cut with the cutting machine. I had to cut out like 2 or 3 of these at once, so I used my cutting machine because I could do it very quickly. And that's why I like my rolling cutting machine. And then I think I cut those 6.5 inch squares. I'm pretty sure I did those with my rotary cutter, and that's probably why they're not very straight. I'm not a very good cutter. Does anybody have any other questions? But I did, so we're going to do the quilting in a couple of weeks, and that will be done. I actually did quilt this with metallic thread, and the King Star metallic thread is up on the website as well, and that thread is so nice, and you can put it in the bobbin. And you know, I've never had metallic thread that I could put in the bobbin before, and I love it because I can actually quilt my quilt and have it metallic on the back. It's so pretty. So I'm going to use both silver and gold metallic for the quilting, and so that's the only other thread I used. I used my red for my red work, my white for the couple of that needed white eyes, and then I had silver metallic and gold metallic. So that's all I used for threading this. Made it easy, didn't it? You didn't have to have too many threads. Okay, so somebody asked what a jump stitch is. I'll show you what. There are a few jumps in this one because these little pieces of the beard here, there's little jumps in between. So you do have to trim those. So when I get it a little closer, I'll show you. This one was one of my favorite blocks. I really like, so I can show you my other blocks that I got done here. This was one of my favorite blocks, was the Santa. And then, so let me show you the other ones here while that's stitching. So here's my, this is the bells. And here's the candle. And we got the gingerbread man. Okay. And of course, you know, if you have a gingerbread man, you have to have a gingerbread girl. I thought she was cute. And then this is where I got the name. I found this cute little block with the ornaments on it, and it said, "May your days be merry and bright." And that's what I thought would be a good name for the quilt. May your days be merry and bright. And I just like the little ornaments. I thought they were so cute. And that one's the only one that takes very long to stitch because of the lettering in it. And then there's a present. And here's the little reindeer. This is the other one that had the 4 steps to it. So just be watching your design. So this one, see, there's a little white glints in his eye. Okay. That's the reindeer. And here's the little snowman. Had to have a snowman. And then a stocking with a little teddy bear on it. And then a Christmas tree, and you just make one of each one. So there's 13 blocks in it. Unless you're Denise, who made a king size quilt, and I think she did at least quadruple the designs. So here's the little tree, and then this is the wreath. This is the last wreath. Denise was very busy making blocks. She made a bunch of them. I thought they were cute. They were really fun to do. I had a hard time picking because I had like lots more blocks than I actually needed to digitize. So sometime I'll do another one, and we'll do another one. I love Christmas quilts, and I've always wanted to do a Christmas quilt that wasn't too big. So 78 6.5 inch blocks and 48 4-inch wreath blocks. Oh yeah, because you put those in the border, Denise, right? So she made almost 80 blocks that had the Redwood on it, and then she made 48 with the wreath. And you'll see the wreath when we go to do the the quilting. It was actually one of the quilting ones, but she used it in the border, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, it turned out really good, Denise. You'll have to take a picture of the whole quilt like on your bed or something and put it up on the group, will you? Because you put it up, I think, before it was quilted, but I'd like, maybe you haven't got the binding on it yet. Yes, Denise is definitely an overachiever. She got a lot. She did a lot. Okay, so it's getting ready to do, it's doing his eyes now, and then we'll put the white in here in a minute. Oh yeah, that would be really pretty, Jan. Jan suggested that we put crystals on the tree and the wreath. That would be really pretty, where the little berries and stuff are. That'd be really cute. Yes, you could do that. You could just put some of those hot fix crystals on. Okay, you're doing the binding. So when it's all done with your binding, can you put it? Can you take a picture of it on your bed and put it up so everybody can see it? All finished. I'm anxious to see it all finished. So she didn't quilt the king size quilt, but she's quilting her pillow shams. So she put, if you haven't been on the group in the last couple hours, she put a picture of her pillow shams she's working, and she did quilt those with the quilting. So they were really cute. All right, we're getting close here. Okay, so this is where we have to remember on Santa and the reindeer, don't forget to put the white thread in and do the glints, because all the other ones are just 3 steps and this one is 4. Okay, those 2, and I put it in the instructions, those 2 are 4 steps because you got to do the glints. So if you give me just a second here, I got a little thread sticking out on Santa's eyeball, so we'll put the white in now and do the little glints in his eyes. So you can see these redwork blocks go pretty quickly. So next week we're going to do some piecing, and we're gonna sew the top together next week. So this week you can get your little blocks done, and they really go quickly. So we're going to put the little glints in his eye. And I go into more detail with all of the other videos, just so you know. So I'm gonna, these live classes are going to be a little less detailed. So you go, when you have the videos, when you buy the designs, I have much more detail with all the quilting and everything too. Okay, so there's his glints, and I think he's done now. So remember those 2. Don't forget the little glints in his eyes, and take it out of the hoop before you're done, okay? Because you got to have, Santa has to have little glints in his eyes to make him happy. Okay, so there's Santa. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take him out of the hoop here. I had my 2 hoops, so I had them all hooped. Then I'm going to turn this over, and we're just going to tear the paper off from around the outside edge. Tear the stabilizer off. And you normally have to clip these little, those little chinks there where the centers are. Okay. Go in here. All right, so get this out of the way. Now I always have to clip those little things. And then we'll pull the stabilizer out to around Santa and just leave it inside, because it should come off easily. But I just kind of, left the stabilizer on the inside. And that way too, it just makes everything stay nice and smooth when you go to quilt it, because we're going to be quilting around the outside. Isn't he cute? This was one of my favorite ones, I think. I liked them all, but this one, I really like the gingerbread people too. There's Santa. Okay. So see how easy, and that one's one of the longer ones. It's 7 minutes. Most of them are around 6-7 minutes, and then the May Your Days Be Merry and Bright is like 10 minutes because it has the letters in it. So it does take a little longer, but isn't he cute? So there's Santa. So all of my blocks are now sewn out. All of my red work is ready. And then next week we'll be doing the piecing. Where did you find all of these designs? I love coloring book pages. So most of these were coloring book pages, and I use those a lot for artwork. Free coloring book pages. I just look for stuff that, I was looking for, I just looked up free coloring book pages. So that's what these all are. They work really well for red work just because they're easy and they're already in line drawings. So I just trace them. Okay. So next week, then, here's all my blocks. See, I'm all done now. See, it was so great. I'm all done now. And next week, then, what we're going to do, you may want to watch the video if you have, if you do this. So this is the piecing the interior. This is one of the pictures. And you can see, remember I told you my A, B, C, D, E, and F fabrics? Cindy, you should have a class on how to do. I did, Cindy. It was before you joined us. So if you go to youtube.com and go to Sew Along with Jan, if you go to the playlist where all the PEP classes in there, I show you how to make red work. There's a red work class in there. It was before you joined us. So go find it on YouTube. If you need me to tell you that again, just email me and I will email it back to you where to go, okay? Or I can send you the link to it. But I did show everybody how to do this, but it was before you joined us. Okay, so here's one of this is when we piece these, we're going to be piecing in columns like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 columns. And then I mark your fabric. I laid my fabric out and figured out what I wanted to be A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay. And so this is our kind of our piecing guide here in the rows here. Okay. And then if you want to, before next week, you can also, you need to complete your red work blocks and then get all your squares cut. And then I'm going to use some cotton piecing thread for this. And then you could watch the video. You can click on this link on your PDF and watch the video. And then I'm going to show you how to piece this next week. Okay. I'll do some of it ahead of time so that I can show you how to do borders. But for the most part, we will piece the quilt next week. Okay. It's a very simple pattern. I wanted it to be super simple. Okay. All right. So are there any questions? We have prepared our fabrics and we have made our red work blocks this week. So next week we will start sewing this together. So give me a second here and I'll switch my camera. We'll switch back to the other one. Let me see here, maybe. Gotta find the.
Oh, there we go. All right, can you see me now? Okay, there I am. So are there any other questions? Any other questions? So hopefully next week I'll have my bigger sewing table. It'll be a little easier to do the quilting on because I'm going to move it up here tomorrow. And that'll be easier. And I think the quilt, I don't have the quilt here. I will bring a quilt up next week probably. I just don't happen to have it here. So I'll make a note on my phone and bring the quilt up. I didn't bring it up with me. So do you think the best to cut the square a bit larger and then square up? No, actually I did not. I did not do that, Marcia. It should be fine. Are you talking about the red work block? I did not have any trouble. Because I did not want to hoop the block. Are you echo quilting the blocks? I didn't echo quilt. I did I did stippling around these. So the quilting is all digitized for you and it goes around each one of the red work. And it's stippling. So it's not echo quilting, it's stippling. And then the other quilting is like feathers. So I did a feather border, like a triangular feather border and a feather wreath and like a straight feather. It is the entire quilt, Marianne. I'm just selling the whole pattern because that's really what it is. This is the pattern for the quilt. So that's what I'm selling. The colored ones, mine are always too small. Okay. Oh, you mean the little 3.5 inch ones? I cut with my Sizzix cutter to make sure that my blocks are more accurate. And so I don't cut them bigger and square them up. No, because they're just squares. I'm not piecing like half square triangles or anything. So I would say cut them 3.5 inches, but you need to make sure that they are 3.5 inches. Press your fabric, maybe a little starch before you cut cut. That's what I usually do because I have to do that with my machine. So I starch my fabric and iron it nicely before I cut. And that helps, especially with the little bit of starch. Okay. Before I cut my blocks. And it works better. Starch always works better with the cutters anyway, because they need a little bit of body. The fabric sometimes needs a little body to run through the machine. So, yep, starch. I use, I just make my own starch out of vodka and distilled water is what I use. And that works real well. So, okay. All right. I thought they were very cute. Marianne, I like Christmas stuff, and I've always wanted to do. I saw a couple Christmas quilts that I just really liked, and I thought, well, I can do that. So I'm just going to make my own. Oh, so Colleen says she has her redwork blocks done, and my square cut for the piecing together will be using blue tiles when we quilt. Oh, when we use the blue tiles? No, I made templates for you. So the difference in the way I quilt this is with the clear blue tiles, you have to mark a mark on your square. These, you do not have to do that. You can just drop the template on and use that to line up. So no, we're not going to use the clear blue tiles. I'm going to use my templates. The reason I like the templates is because I don't have to make a mark on my block. I'm not super hip on those marking pens, and sometimes they're hard to come out. So we are going to use templates. Okay, so I'll show everybody how to use templates. Templates are very cool. And for those of us with snowman features on our machines, you can just take the template, put the little snowman dude right in the middle, and he will line up everything perfectly for you. And you can also, and for those of you who do not have that, you will have to use your plastic grids. So I will show you both quilting methods, okay? And yeah, so the pattern, if you need help finding the pattern, let me know and I will send you the link. Otherwise, the link is up on the group in the little post. So it's fairly close to the top of the feed because people have been talking about it. So you should be able to find it. Okay. All right. So are there any other questions? Any other questions, anybody? And remember, so we still have some pillows to do. Make sure you put pictures of your November pillows up on the group. I'd love to see them. So if you put the videos up for the last 2 weeks, and then we'll do the December ones in the first 2 weeks of December. So, okay. All righty. So I will see you all next week at this time, and we will do some piecing. So we're going to be quilters next week and do some sewing. All right. So I'll see you later. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I will, you can Facebook me, you can call me at the store, you can get me through the website or whatever. So I will talk to you later. Thanks, everybody. Good night.